Hi everyone, I am Divya Sharma. I'm from Punjab. I'm happen to be a person with vision impairment. I have glaucoma since the age of 3, and I have underwent around 6 surgeries by the age of 5. So now I am left with a 15 to 20% vision. That means I can just figure out the light perception from my left eye. That's all. Otherwise, I can't see, I can't read anything. I use screen readers to operate my phone, laptop, and all other things I do with the help of screen readers and talking softwares. So I have done my master's in English, and presently I'm working in corporate sector.
Amazing, Divya. And I don't think anybody can even make out that you have any form of disability from the way you're talking to us right now. So kudos to you and thank you for sharing your background with us. So Divya, my first question to you this evening is, what does inclusion mean to you?
I think inclusion for me is when you are not, there is no limitation, there is no kind of questions or no kind of hesitation to include you in social activities or any sort of activities, even in a digital form or, in physical form. So inclusion has to be there, and it should be the basic right that everybody has in journal. So I guess when we talk about persons with disabilities, inclusion is not uh, that it's not that much as far as India is concerned. But for me, inclusion has to be there, whether you talk about entertainment or studies or corporate or anything or and everything. So for me, inclusion is everywhere, and it has to be everywhere, and we have to keep on spreading a word regarding inclusion and how we can make a difference towards this. I think my life is revolving around inclusion only because I have seen so many discriminations in my age since my childhood. So for me, everything revolves around inclusion, and I try my best to spread a word regarding inclusivity in every form. Yeah.
Absolutely, Divya. And I would not want to, redefine inclusion in any other way because I know how it is for a person who's living with any kind of disability, right? In our country,
Yeah.
how little things can be very difficult and far-fetched, right? Even things like getting access to schools, colleges, be it even public spaces at times for people who have physical disabilities. So it's all over the place. There's no dearth of exclusion in our society. But my natural ask, sprouting from what you were telling us a while back is. Uh, where all did you feel excluded while you were growing up, if just so that we can also highlight how your life has been difficult all along, and you know people think that it is only the greatness of the person who's able to circumvent these challenges, but that
Yeah.
shouldn't have been so difficult in the first place, right? And we don't have to be heroes for just going about our regular lives, but where all did you feel
Yeah.
excluded in your life from your beginning?
See, first of all, I have a twin sister and an elder brother. So when I was very young, I was spending most of my time with my twin sister. So I never felt like, because at home there was kind of an environment, my sister was of my age because we are twins. So everything was similar. But when I was in class 8, so I was told in a mainstream school, I was told to leave because they don't know how to deal with a person with disability. And then none of the schools in my city, like 5 or 6 schools I went to, and they said, we can't give you admission because of your disability, and we have no idea how to deal with such a child. So because of that, I it was a big setback for me when I was in class 7th. And my twin sister, my elder brother, my friends, everybody was going to normal schools, everything was similar and same for them, but for me, I was told to sit at home. So at that time I realized that was the first time I think that in a very huge way I experienced discrimination. So I thought this is time that I will do everything from my small city near Nangal, and I won't go out of this city now. I will create awareness in this city, I will study from here, and I will work from here and achieve everything from here. So after some months we discovered we can do correspondence, and with the support of my parents at that time back in 2009-10, there were no screen readers, so my parents used to help me by recording and somewhat of braille and then recording. And when I finished my 10th and 12th, then I started using scanner for scanning my books. For example, to give you a taste of this, I used to scan the entire book. Like, at that time there was Canon. These days, so they are advanced scanners, but at that time we had to tear the page and scan it and then study it so that it is accessible. My screen reader will read a page when it is accessible. So generally, if you are reading a book, you will just swipe and you start reading the book. But we had to tear the page and then scan it, and one page used to take 1.5 minutes to get scanned. So I used to scan my entire book at night. Then during the day, I used to translate the image format into the accessible format by using ABBY software. So that was a long process, and then I used to study. So at that time, I could taste the discrimination. Ki, see, I didn't get support from teachers. There was nobody who taught me. I started, studying at home. I had good support of my parents. My mom has been English lecturer, so they helped me out. And then I was also very curious to learn new things, so I started exploring computers. At that time, I remember we had a desktop at home. Long it was very in a very initial stage, that was for accessibility and screen readers. So I started realizing, I have to do things for myself, otherwise I can't just sit at home. So I started studying from there, and then I did my 10th and 12th. Then I for my graduation I did political science and public administration from a local college correspondently, because it was from associated with this Himachal University board, university. So I started studying there correspondently, but that was in Hindi medium, so I used to translate my Hindi books into English to study. And then I did my master's in English from Punjab University. That too I did correspondently, purposefully, because I wanted to show, I can do everything and anything from this city. So I finished my graduation, post graduation simultaneously. When you are in a small city, usually there is an approach that kids go to bigger cities for better opportunities, studies, work, and everything. So I was alone at home. I had a pet dog. My parents used to go for work. So one thing was I was missing out on hanging around and so much. But the other thing was I started working on different things. I'm a guitarist. I'm a tabla player. I'm a harmonium player. So I derived my interest towards all these things, apart from my studies, because I used to spend my time learning new things. So simultaneously
Fabulous.
I start. Yeah. So
Fabulous. Absolutely
at
fabulous. Please go on. Please go on.
thank you. So while I was studying, I used to teach some students, because I realized persons with vision impairment specifically had a very difficult time in learning English spellings and everything, because screen readers, they used to listen to whatever the screen reader is reading, but they never but thought much about the spellings and all. So I started teaching kids on Skype. At that time there was Skype only, so I used to teach them for free, to help them with their English for banking and everything, apart from my studies. Simultaneously I was doing my graduation. Then in 2014, I was called by an NGO to Shimla for a press conference. So there I went and I spread a word about accessibility, screen readers, how people with vision impairment work, and the impact was such that Himachal University, they got to know, we can also do. Persons with vision impairment can also study, because till then there had been an approach, general approach, persons with vision impairment specifically would go into either music और जस्ट जो कुर्सी पुनने का काम होता है उसमें. So I spread the word, and then their schools and colleges started giving admission to kids. Many kids went to Delhi, NBA, NAB, National Association for the Blind, for for the studies. So I could feel the power of creating awareness, and I thought, because of lack of awareness
Right.
and accessibility, I had to leave the school. I won't let it happen to anybody else. So
Right.
after that, I was doing post graduation. I started my pet project simultaneously, where I used to go. I have so far completed 13 or 14 institutions where I go to schools and colleges. First, I call them and convince them, I'm a person with vision impairment and I just want to take 15 minutes
Hmm.
in your assembly. And I used to go there with my cane and describe them how screen readers work, laptop work, so that the faculty also knows ki, people with vision impairment can work. And I told
Right.
them about Right to Education Act 2009, so that they
Hmm.
know that no institution can say no to admission to persons with disabilities. So I
Hmm.
used to spread a word. And the tragedy was, even the principals of the schools and colleges, they used to think, whenever I used to call them for an appointment, they used to say, okay, so you want charity, that's why you're calling.
Hmm.
I
You're
said, no,
calling for a donation.
I'm not,
You're
yeah, I'm
calling for
not
a
looking
donation.
forward
Hmm.
towards donation. I'm calling you for your benefit, because you can be in a trouble later on if you deny admission to somebody. So I
Hmm.
used to go to schools, institutions, spread a word. In mainstream schools I used to go, and
Right.
it happened throughout my post graduation. Simultaneously I used to work. Even today I take after pandemic I used to do so many sensitizing sessions, I call them. So online sessions and offline sessions where I go and spread a word. Just the purpose is nobody should go to the
Hmm.
trauma of being told to leave school the way I was told.
Absolutely.
So that was the main that was the main stage when I experienced discrimination. But yes, of course, apart from this, I'm a martial art blue belt. I have 5 belts in karate, and I'm aiming for black belt in my life. So at that time also I was to face discrimination. Of course, first I had to give double fees for being a person with vision impairment. These are perks that we all have to face. So I got a normal coach used to teach me, and I used to pay double. And then also after some time there was some or the other discriminations there. Apart
Hmm.
from this, then after my post graduation I thought ki I will work from here only, from my small city only. So I ventured into corporate writing. Since I did masters in English, many people were after me, why don't you just go for government job? I
Hmm.
said, I just it doesn't excite me. I can't just go for this. I want to do something different. So at that time, today corporate writing, content writing, copywriting is common. But at that time, like 7, 8 years back, it was very rare.
Right.
So I just gave an interview and I got selected in a company. So I started working for them without disclosing my disability, because of course interview was online and I could pass everything and anything. But after 2 years, I was to given an award by NCPETV Universal Award in 2016. So I never took an off. But after 9 months, I took an off and I told my boss, I am a person with vision impairment and I'm receiving this award. I want 5 days off because I have to go out of station. Then he
Right.
got to know, I'm a person with vision impairment.
Hmm.
Because I always felt, if you disclose your disability, people's lack of
Exactly.
awareness, it we have to pay for that. Otherwise they will think, okay,
Absolutely.
they won't even listen to you. So they were very
Absolutely.
happy by then, because
Hmm.
for 9 months they saw my work. So they were very
Hmm.
contented and they had no idea. Rather, they were curious and they were checking, they were googling, doing Google and checking, is there a screen reader, or she's just saying it for the saying sake. So
Hmm.
that was the so inclusion, I used to spread a word about inclusion at every step. But again, as discrimination is a part of our life, after
I know.
some months I left that company. Like after 2 3 years I left that company because that was going in some loss. So
Hmm.
I joined another company, US company, and they said, we are very inclusive. But after 8 or 9 months of working with them, they said, they sent me an email of screenshot. So I
Hmm.
told them, I can work very efficiently and everything is there, but this screenshot I can't access. At that time, it was not readable by our screen readers. So they
Hmm.
said, I said, it's just a matter of 5 6 seconds. You just tell any other team member, they can just, to get the content through that and it's done. They said,
Hmm.
see, we are not here for you. You have to put your papers.
Hmm.
So then I realized no matter how good I am, unless you are working in Google or Amazon or big companies,
Right.
there is no accessibility.
Right.
They claim that the normal companies do claim that we are accessible, but when the time comes, they show their back. So
Right.
at that time, I decided that now it is the time that I won't keep all my eggs in the same basket, and I diversified. So I went
Hmm.
into full time freelancing, you can call, and but I have permanent clients, so I call it business. So presently, I have a few clients from India and Dubai and a few US. So I today I know, even if, because technology is revolving and evolving so fast that maybe today what is accessible, tomorrow it won't be. For example, if we use Zomato or Swiggy, today my screen reader is reading it, it's accessible. But if I maybe tomorrow I want to order something, it won't be accessible, because they keep on advancing their applications, and when they do that, they forget about the accessibility thing. So
Hmm.
these are the things which we face, regularly. And with
Absolutely.
clients also, I've faced it many a times, but
Hmm.
it was not a huge blow to me, because I knew ki, okay, one client is going, it's okay, I have two clients in hand. So it's a
Absolutely.
challenging task. I have to keep on proving myself every day, but I know ki it has to work like that.
When
And
I listen to these very inspiring stories, and I keep thinking to myself, what about, all those other people who have disabilities but do not have the mental strength to deal with it, right? And here I'm
yeah,
talking to somebody who could, go through all these challenges because you were, you had the sight of your mind, which means that, you were very strong, in your mind, that you could go through these challenges effortlessly, right? But there are
yeah,
so many people with disabilities who come from poorer backgrounds, who don't get family support, who don't get support from anybody in the society to kind of who encourage them to go ahead in life, and they are kept completely cordoned off from the rest of the world, and they lead a miserable life, honestly speaking.
yeah,
Thanks to the smartphones and internet, which has made
yeah,
so much of information available, thanks to channels like platforms like YouTube and Google, that you Google for something today in any language, you're able to get information. If I'm looking for any particular topic, there is somebody or the other who's written up something, and it is accessible on the world wide web. Now,
yeah,
I keep telling people that always think about those who cannot fight for themselves. I think
yeah,
one of the main things that anybody who's been able to survive an adversity in life should do is encourage somebody who doesn't have the capacity to deal with that adversity, right? So if you had to
yeah.
share an encouragement note with people from the visually impaired community, those who do not have the mental strength right now, who are feeling extremely demotivated and less morally supported, what would you like to tell them?
See, I think that everybody has challenges, but of course, when you are a person with vision impairment or any other disability, it gets difficult to put across what you want to say or convey, or maybe even if you try to convey, people don't understand, and it's a big, trauma for many people, and many people don't
Right.
get the mental strength to deal with this.
Divya, can I just pause you here and tell you that, since you just mentioned mental health, one of
Yeah,
the one of the biggest subjects nobody talks about is the need for mental health counseling, for people living with disabilities, right? And I don't think, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of anybody who does counseling sessions. We've heard of motivational
no,
speakers, but
yeah.
have you ever heard of anybody counseling in the space of mental health for people with disabilities or their caregivers or anybody in that space? Have you heard of anybody there?
Personally, I haven't heard of it. Yeah, specifically, I
It's
never heard people talking about this.
Absolutely. Like, for example, even in my case, I'm a caregiver, right, of a child who's
Yeah,
living with severe disabilities. And there are so many times that, I feel extremely low, extremely, depressed, because I know that what I'm going through is something that nobody else is, and nobody can relate to it. Right? You might have friends saying that, okay, come over for a coffee, we'll talk over it, etc. But nobody is able to go understand and counsel you, or even have a talk with you, because they don't live the the same through the same situation that you are. And
yeah,
this is one dynamic that nobody speaks about. When we're
yeah.
talking about inspiring people, we're talking about motivating people, but what is your take on that aspect of mental health counseling? Do you think people should be professionally sort of studying into the space and becoming mental health counselors for people with disabilities? Do you think there is a need for that subject in our country?
See, mental health is a big issue, and I recently read a research in journal that people were saying that mental health is something in Western world it's already given lots of importance, but in India
Right.
it's not that peaking at the moment. And when it comes to marginalized, sections of the community like persons with disability and their caregivers, it's a far cry. I mean, nobody is talking about. Everybody is talking about accessibility. Also, nobody is much talking about that, but forget about mental health. So I think it's time that people should talk about mental health, because to be very frank, people think Divya, you are doing this, that, and everything. You must be a positive person. Yes, I am, but that doesn't mean that I don't have low days, or the days when I feel
Exactly.
very disappointed. I don't have a If I want to go outside, I don't have. My twin sister is in NCR. My brother is in Australia. I don't have people of my age in my city. My parents are
Right.
they are now retired. So when I want to go out, see, in a
Hmm.
bigger city you can use Uber and Ola and everything, and you can travel. But I'm in a small city. If I want to go out, there are no Uber and Ola because everybody goes by their car.
Hmm.
So that's a big issue for me. I have to depend on anybody who will come, and then I will go, because I just
Right.
can't take my cane and go out because it's a small city. There is no transportation of that sort. So
Right.
I feel I don't talk about many things, and I know my friends in the community who want to talk about mental health. I do
Hmm.
have a visually impaired group where only visually impaired women and girls
Hmm.
are there. They talk about everything, not just about disability, everything, and
Hmm.
somehow it helps. But
Hmm.
there's no professional who can guide towards mental health. And if
Right.
you start talking to anybody regarding their problems, there is a whole sea. And I think there
Absolutely.
has to be somebody who can just narrow this gap. And
Hmm.
mental health is, as you said, there has to be proper mental health facility or mental health experts for persons with disabilities. But I'm
Absolutely.
afraid that it's a business these days, and I don't think so. Because already for persons with disabilities, things are very expensive. The
Hmm.
taxes are huge on equipment and other software for persons with disabilities. So to spend on mental health, it will be a different expense to altogether.
And I also feel, Divya, at the end of the day, people who have lived experience, right? Somebody like you,
Yeah,
or maybe somebody like me, and when we are met with these adversities, like having physical challenges in our own lives, when we eventually grow up to choose a career path, if maybe some of us can become counselors, maybe if some of us get into the space of helping other, but helping those from our own communities out, right, in the space of
yeah,
maybe psychological counseling, etc., or career counseling also, right? And I'm talking about professionally, not just as a hobby or in our spare time to
yeah,
motivate them in self-help groups, etc., but take it up professionally, because unless and until we share the data in a manner that can logically help another person in the same space, we are not
yeah,
going to be able to actually form human directories of support, if you know what I'm trying to say. For people who are living in the society without any disability, all these services are actually available. So for example,
yeah,
if let's say there is a child who has no disability, right, no hindrance in their growth or in their going about
yeah,
their careers, etc., today if a parent of that kind of a child goes to a career counselor, that career counselor is able to guide them कि आपके बच्चे को आप ये करा सकते हो, वो करा सकते हो. But today if I want to, let's say, take my daughter, and I have my case is a little weird. I have two daughters,
yeah,
one who is completely, physically normal, no disability, etc. The youngest one has 80%, locomotor disability. She's on a wheelchair. So when I
yeah,
look for career counseling options for my youngest daughter vis-a-vis my eldest daughter, I am at loss. I don't have any such person who can guide me and tell me that, okay,
yeah,
Manisha, maybe, your youngest daughter can try out these career options, or in case she's going through some form of depression, you can go for psychological counseling here and there. And I'm only thinking that, why is there this vacuum? Is it because there are so few of us? But when I'm looking around, there are actually so many people. Look at the global
yeah,
data. There are 1.2 billion people of living with disabilities across the world. So somewhere
exactly.
I think there is but if you're looking at 1/4 of your global population suffering from disabilities, then why aren't some of us actually thinking of this professionally? And I keep asking this question to those listening, to these conversations, that why can't you, give career opportunities of this kind to people with disabilities themselves?
I feel maybe, first of all, do you think it will be financially sound for a person with disability to venture into this profession? Because there is a tendency, it's unfortunate, but there is a tendency people don't trust, a person
Yeah.
with disability with that level of thing.
But the
No
funny
matter,
part is, no, I'll tell you, the funny
yeah,
part, Divya, is now suppose I have some form of disability, okay, and I'm just giving you, and
yeah,
it is not a mental disability, let's say, so there's no problem cognitively with an individual. The person is physically challenged. It could be
yeah,
visual impairment to locomotor disability. Let's stick to these two, points for the sake of this, segment. Now, what
yeah,
happens is, suppose I pick up, I'm somebody with a locomotor disability. You have, let's say, visual impairment. You've done your master's in English and psychology, for example, and I have done my master's in psychology. We can actually take up counseling as a profession, not just for people with disabilities, but in general, for anybody in the society. Now, what that happens is, but it helps in that manner is that this person can then become accessible to people with disabilities, as well as for those who are from mainstream society. And in turn, what we are trying to do is mainstreaming that process of inclusion, right? Because unless and
yeah.
until we find these gaps out there and we get into these gaps and make career opportunities out of them, we will never be able to bridge the gap between the community of people with disabilities with the mainstream society, purely because of the absence of the services. So I'm just thinking of that as an example. And to
Yeah.
kind of continue a little more, how often do you feel a person who has heroed a life with disability is looked upon as a motivational speaker? Very often, right? You'll have,
Yeah, very.
you'll be called by corporates to educational institutions ki aap aake apna kahani sunao, motivate people. Why do you think they do that? They do that because in return they're trying to uplift those who are not so encouraged, right? But they don't realize that एक speech से तो वो बात बनेगी नहीं. You'll never be able to achieve that target. What you really need is a one-to-one counseling, or maybe a group counseling for that community. And that community can have people from all backgrounds. It can have people with disabilities or
I
without.
have heard from many of my friends that they are amazing achievers, but they said, whenever we are called for motivational sessions, we
Yes.
have to leave behind our work and hours, so we ask for
Hmm.
payment, because
Hmm.
obviously time is money.
And
But
you'll not
when
get
it
paid.
comes to
Hmm.
money, they will say, see, you are motivational, why? If
Hmm.
a person, so-called person without disability, will motivate, they are given money. But when a person
Absolutely.
with disability does the same thing, they said, you are
Hmm.
you are a motivational
Then you're
person, why you
called,
have to? They won't,
then the
they
others
won't
will
do
be
that.
called coaches, while as a person with
Yeah,
disability will be called a motivational speaker. That's the difference, right? And the coaches will be paid
yeah,
in in high value, whereas people with disabilities will be just considered as inspiring icons, etc., and given an award or a certificate, maybe something like
yeah,
that, to keep them happy. But that is the disparity, right? And I keep thinking to
yeah,
myself that, while we are growing up with our own adversities, trying to deal with them, why should we get limited to people who are inspiring others only, right? At the end of the day, we all
yeah,
need livelihoods. There are lots of such mainstream professions, and which we don't think about, but these are professions which have come up in the recent times.
right,
Somebody who's probably working in assistive technologies, for example, or who's talking
yeah,
about coaching, for example. And I'm talking about not normal counseling, psychological counseling, but I'm talking about leadership coaching, right? Or if I'm
yeah,
talking about, let's say, mental health counselors, for example, or career counselors for people with, or let's say career counselors in general, but that person has an edge, that person can also counsel people with disabilities depending on their disabilities, and also the people from normal sections of the society. And I'm only thinking that unless we talk about these things, how in heaven's sake are we going to guide people with disabilities in the right direction, कि आप अपने life का बना क्या सकते हो, right? for example, this conversation with you, Divya, will definitely encourage people to pursue education. But
Yeah,
education leading to what, right? What next?
yeah, exactly.
How do you create a sustainable livelihood? The other day, I was talking to somebody from NAB on this podcast, and they were talking about how difficult it is to get career opportunities for the visually impaired after the
Yeah,
point of education. It is ridiculous
yeah,
because corporate workplaces do not want to hire people who have visual impairment on a full time basis. So
yeah,
today, like
exactly.
you, for example, you are working from your own home, and you've created, you've become more like a entrepreneur. You're giving services, a
Yeah,
service provider of sorts. But today, let's say if a visually impaired person wants to go to office and wants to work with the rest of the population, accessibility is a issue, safety of commuting is an issue, going when commuting to work and back is an issue. All of that is an issue today, right?
for visually
Mm.
impaired, the main issue is digital. We generally think about physical barriers, but for visually impaired, main barriers are digital these days, because everything,
Absolutely.
obviously, technology has helped us tremendously. But
Correct.
what's the point? There are many websites. If I
Hmm.
go there, my screen will just say blank or graphic. That's all. It won't read only, and it's
Because
very difficult to explain.
the originators are
They
not
haven't made
creating
it
accessible. Yes,
they haven't
absolutely.
made it accessible, and then you can't just make people understand. Even if I have some friends, I won't take the name of the organization or any of that sort, but they said, we have no problem going to office, or wherever we are going. There are
Hmm.
a few people who are in bank. They also said, we go to bank and there are no computers provided to us. We are sitting there,
Absolutely.
and we are coming back home in the evening,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we are paid, of course. There are institutions where there is no infrastructure for persons with disabilities, specifically visually challenged, if we talk about. So yeah, it's a bliss after pandemic. Persons with disabilities have experienced a boost in employment, because they
Right.
can work from home, whether wheelchair bound or persons with vision impairment. But again, even if visually impaired people are getting an opportunity from home, if
Hmm.
the digital websites are not accessible, software are not accessible, it won't be of any use to us. So we
Right.
have to fight. The other day, one of my clients said, you have to play this game, and you have to research and curate proper content for us. So I
Right.
told them, I have done thorough research, I know the idea and statistics, but what's the need of playing game? But he was compelling me, you just download the game and play. I told
Hmm.
him, the game is not accessible, how will I play? So people don't understand that accessibility is a huge problem. They don't want to understand this. So that's a
Right.
problem, and it's difficult, and it's painful. The mentality of people is very narrow these days. I mean, 2 years back, one of the heads of an organization, again I won't name, but the head is very the head was very influential, and there were 6 7 people sitting in the conference call, and he said, so Miss Sharma, Miss Divya, don't you feel you are double disabled? First you are a woman, and then you have a vision impairment disability. So
How
I just
sad.
laughed it off, because I don't
Hmm.
know what to answer. I mean, what do I say? I mean, I just can't stoop to their level and tell them and show
Hmm.
them their place. I just laughed it off, but it shows the mentality of people,
You'll be surprised, Divya,
yeah,
you'll be surprised to know that, when I ask some of the uh, people who do not have disability of any kind, what does inclusion mean to them? They say it means to
yeah.
include women in the mainstream. So
Exactly.
if that is of any help.
After a certain age in your life, you start laughing it off. You don't have the
Exactly.
capacity to make them understand, because if such an influential person who is running an organization has such
Hmm.
things to say, then what can you expect from a normal person? But that doesn't
Exactly.
mean we'll stop doing our part. We are doing, but we can't just force it.
Right, absolutely, Divya. And I think, the only, I think, part which is slightly unhappy right now is that we are all struggling in a silo, in our individual silos, right? And I wish someday soon, through these conversations, through sharing our stories, and understanding that we have a right to be in mainstream, we can all come together and bring about a change across the mass, and not just continue to struggle in our own independent lives. I think that day needs to come, because unless and until we come together and we get into, break open those doors which remain closed in so many places for us, this is not going to happen. And that day will come, the sooner we realize that it is not the type of disability that separates us, it is the society
Yeah.
that is separating us, right? So whether you have visual impairment, or my daughter has locomotor disability, or
Yeah.
somebody has hearing impairment, I don't think that is the point of difference at all in our
Yes.
lives. It is the attitude, the general attitude of various sections of the society, which is disabling each one of us and making us struggle in our own little silos. But I think because of education, because of technology, people are becoming aware, and it is a good thing. Change takes time,
Yeah.
like they say. But when you have to reach your goals a little faster, you really have to think smartly, right? And that's what we need to do.
In recent times, I've realized when I talk to many of my friends, I have
Hmm.
many wheelchair bound friends and visually impaired challenged people. These days, loneliness is a big deal.
It
It's a
is.
big problem. But for a normal person, they just go out and grab a coffee and, sit and get some fresh air. But when for
Right.
a person with disability, they don't have that luxury only. I will call it luxury because it is a luxury for us. For whether you're a
Absolutely.
wheelchair user, you need somebody. And obviously, there is not always somebody there.
Which is why, Divya, I was telling you that mental health counseling for
From
people
yeah,
with disabilities is a huge vacuum, and it is sad to see that some of the folks who are not really so strong, right, to be able to deal with that lonely space, to be able to deal with those challenges that they get met every day of their lives, they land up actually committing suicide and losing their lives because of these atrocities that are being dished out to them. And I hope that you know people in the mainstream the section of the society, people who are counselors in the space of mental health, can actually figure out how to fill up these gaps and reach out to those sections of the society which are marginalized, and try counseling them, either with acquired knowledge or by training people who are having lived experiences, by coaching them, or through education, having them as interns, etc., and getting them into mainstream for counseling. And this is not a joke, because for example, in my case, I come from a rare disease community, right? Rare disease communities, and let me tell you, Divya, the funny part is there are 7,000 known rare diseases across the world. So you can imagine how many
yeah,
people are affected, right? For all you know, you could have a rare condition which is of genetic origin, but your doctor never
yeah,
told you or your family. Most of the
yeah,
disabilities which arise in a human body are owing to these inherited genetic disorders, right? And the basic gap in our system today, in healthcare system, is the gap between a medical practitioner who is also half aware and counseling that parent of the child who's born with a genetic disorder, right? And
yeah.
literally that is where the gap starts. The first gap in their life starts from there, where the doctor tells them इनका कुछ हो नहीं सकता है, आपको इसी तरीके से जीना पड़ेगा, या तो आप आप दिन गिनो कि आपका बच्चा कितने दिन आपके साथ रहे, right? This is a terminal
या
kind of a
किसी
condition.
बाबा वगैरह के पास जाओ and
Exactly,
मेडिकल
exactly.
करवाओ.
And
And half of your life
unfortunately,
goes waste like that.
exactly. So what do the parents do? They run behind alternative therapies, and the first few years
Temples,
of their life are
gurdwaras everywhere.
exactly the first few years of the life are lost to this precious years of the life where early intervention can take place. Caregiver counseling is required. एक तरीका होता है कि हाँ, आपको अभी से ऐसे उनको उनकी देखभाल करनी चाहिए, and you have to stay positive, both body positive as well as mind positive, right? So if your caregivers are not counseled, how in the world are you going to expect the child to grow up in a positive atmosphere? And I'm talking about inside the family unit, which is the first point of interaction that you have
But
with.
Monisha,
Hmm.
sometimes I feel that when person with disability, any so-called person, normal person talks to a person with disability, they think that they have only their disability as a problem. They
Exactly, और
forget
कुछ
that
है ही
the
नहीं,
general
yeah.
problems
Hmm.
that they face in their day-to-day life, whether any kind of friendship thing or any bond thing or any normal thing.
Divya, who has the time to stop by listen to
Yeah,
the woes of a person whose life has some disability? Tell me, आज के दिन में किसके पास
exactly.
time है? Who do
Nobody
you
has.
think? Nobody cares, right? If they see that somewhere this person's body is not functioning or mind is not functioning, they would want to run far away from there, because they know कि उनको यहाँ पे time गवाना पड़ेगा to understand a little deeper and empathize with their lives, and they might even feel drawn towards doing something for them, which is of no use because it's an act of charity. They don't get anything back, right? Biggest, I think, form of disability the society suffers from. They do not have
But
mental space.
I have also recently seen a new category of I should say people. There are people who are getting intimidated by persons with disabilities because accessibility and technology is such that people are in every field. If I specifically talk about vision impairment or wheelchair bound, I have friends wheelchair bound who are amazing graphic designers, coders. Okay, if I talk about visually impaired people, I am into business. I have friends who are lawyers. Then I have friends who are financial business analysts and all. So the normal people, so-called normal people, are getting intimidated also. How can they do this even despite having the disability? So then also they start playing with the mind.
They
start
don't realize, Divya, that the reason why the people with disability are accomplished to that extent is not because of the skill alone, but because they're mentally so strong, and that is where that intimidation stems from.
I strongly feel if you are not doing much in life, people will sympathize and they will stay with you with sometimes they will show love, they will show affection, but once they see
that
in you a competitor, I will say when I was a kid, my cousin, my relatives used to say hi and hello to my brother and sister, and I was sitting there, they won't even acknowledge that I'm sitting there. Okay, but after I received so many acknowledgements, Punjab State Award in 2016, then now recently President Award. So people are saying we always knew that you will do something and all that. I mean, that is the old story that has been there always. So people will now they feel intimidated. What is she doing? Like if I say a few years ago, people used to ask my mom what's Divya doing. So she used to say, Divya is working from home. She runs her work from home. They used to say कि maybe my mom is hiding, poor Divya, she's not doing anything, so mom is just saying for saying sake कि she is doing something. They didn't want to know कि she can earn from home. But now once I received this president award, they got to know कि okay, I'm a content manager of an online radio station, then I'm doing sessions, I'm earning also, I'm martial art also, I'm marathon runner also. Now they got to know कि how come it's happening. Mama said I always told you never wanted to hear. But now when other people are saying, then you are realizing. So that's the tragedy. People don't want to accept if you're doing something. And once you do something, you are a competition or you are a threat to that.
But anyway, let's not focus on that. I think that is a very, very common aspect in all our lives. And if we start talking about that, we will get into crying stories. But let's talk about something more interesting. You just mentioned the President's Award. So you have to tell me a little more about how that happened.
Okay, so last year, only in December 2023, I received this President Award in Individual Excellence for my contribution in disability sector and for my achievements. So it was called Shrest category में मुझे ये मिला था. So I received it by President Ma'am, and then I was lucky enough that among those 2021 persons with disabilities who received President Award, I was the only girl, or I should say woman, who was invited by President Ma'am on 26th January to President House for tea. So I went there and I had a chance to talk to Mr. Modi, and of course President Ma'am shook hands and talked to me for some time there.
Excellent.
So that was a different experience altogether. When I interacted with these politicians and leaders, obviously they were supportive, they were saying, but again the tragedy is if you go into depth, that they don't know anything about disability. They just know that you're visually.
There is very, very, very little awareness even at their level, because it's a subject that they have just opened their minds to. There are so many issues in our country, right? In terms of issues which require a lot of work to be done from the political level. That is your top-down approach. That somewhere, addressing the subject of disability is far lower in that list. And
Right.
that is the sad part of the state of affairs in our country. Each one of us, which means individuals who feel something needs to be done, we have to become change makers in our own space and start taking some action, whatever little we can take. But if there are many of us who, rather than complaining or expecting the government to do something about us, if we can think of ways to create opportunities or bring about the change, that is how India is going to actually become more and more inclusive. Because otherwise, if we keep waiting for top down approach, fir to hone se raha, it's going to take maybe many
See,
more
here I
years.
here one thing which I always supported is the blind schools की अगर बात की जाए या ऐसी कोई भी संस्था की बात की जाए, तो वहां पे कंसेप्ट चलता है या आम लोगों का कंसेप्ट चलता है कि अरे कुछ अच्छा करना है, चैरिटी कर रहा हो, खाना खिला दो
Hmm.
इनको या ये कर दो।
Exactly.
दैट आई एम अगेंस्ट दैट अप्रोच। अगर आपको कुछ करना ही है तो एक ट्रेनिंग क्लास स्पॉन्सर कर दो। वो स्किल
Exactly.
बच्चे के साथ हमेशा रहेगा एंड यू नेवर नो दैट कुड बिकम द सोर्स ऑफ इनकम फॉर हिम और हर। सो
Exactly.
ये अप्रोच होनी। अगर आप कुछ करना चाहते हो कि आप सोचते हो चलो आपने खाना खिला दिया, पुण्य कर दिया। अगर तुमको पुण्य करना ही है, गो एंड एक ट्रेनर को हायर करो एंड कम से कम 3 महीने या 3 वीकेंड्स का ही
No,
उनको
give
कोर्स करवा दो,
scholarships.
स्किल करा दो।
Give
नहीं
education
तो स्किल सिखा
scholarships.
दो,
Give
नहीं तो
education
स्किल
scholarship.
सिखा दो।
Yeah, exactly, give education scholarships, get
या
get into giving scholarships. I keep telling people that you want to donate, do not donate, in fact pay for the education. How many corporates or individuals love to sponsor a child's education in our country? Tell me. There's so many, right? But why don't you sponsor the education of children with disabilities? Why don't you give
या
that a preference? Why do you think that सिर्फ गरीबों को करवाने से आपको पुण्य मिलेगा? Right? There is another marginalized section of the society जिनके लिए दरवाजे खुलते नहीं है. If you start sponsoring or rather creating opportunities for it, education for people, children with disabilities, imagine how many NGOs will come forward and start supporting, co-supporting that, right? And how many
या
more such children will get admissions in schools, and how many more such schools will then become more and more inclusive when they know that corporates are supporting or individuals are supporting this in a large way. And agar
या
इनको पढ़ाई लिखाई मिलेगी in a timely manner, without them having to struggle the way that you did, then they can even think of career opportunities, they can think of upskilling, they can think of everything is education related at the end of the day, right? It is like a
या
big gate that can be opened for other opportunities to come into their lives. So I
या
think at the end of the day, if we can take this message to the grassroots level, कि wherever, however, you're from a small city, I'm from a bigger city, doesn't matter, but wherever
या
anybody can, in their personal capacity or in their organizational capacity, if they can support education of children with disabilities, whatever kind of disabilities, right? Whether it is with finances or by making assistive technologies, by creating, if there is a tech company which is creating in creation of softwares, then figure out and,
या
and try to collaborate with educational institutions where you can sell your product and make that place more inclusive, both for yourself as well as to the education provider. So many creative ways of going about things, right? My next question, Divya, is you have been doing a lot of work in your own space, and I'm talking about the professional work that you do as well as the non-professional work that you do, which is basically for creating awareness, like you said. So what
या
is your current focus on right now? What are the areas that you're focusing on with your non-professional or not-for-profit sort of work that you do?
See, I generally say, for paying bills, I am a corporate writer, but otherwise my passion is disability and, the other things.
Right.
So I'm just trying to talk about inclusion in every possible way because, we have to change the mindset to bring inclusion in general life. For example, I give you a quick example. If you go to Instagram, you will find many persons with wheelchair users using Instagram. But when you talk about visually challenged people, there are hardly any. Okay, so
Right.
I ventured into Instagram because it's getting more accessible for us. So I'm
Right.
trying to do everything and anything that a normal person is doing and setting an example so that they know ki okay, people with vision impairment or disability can do this or that, and they have a different, they have to understand we also have life. We enjoy movies, we enjoy everything, we go on trips, we do everything. That it has to normal. It's time that disability gets normalized, and
Absolutely.
for that we have to create awareness. whenever I'm traveling by bus, by train, I just start talking to people next to me. I will just talk to them, and when I find the other person is also interested, starting telling them, this person with disability, this is, because I feel ki maybe somewhat somewhere they will have this that thing in their mind, and later on maybe someday they will come across a person with disability and they can recall this conversation and spread a
Absolutely.
word further. So
Absolutely.
my thing is ki I try to create awareness whether I get a platform or not. I don't need it. I will create one. If I'm on Instagram, I'll start talking about that. Okay? And it's not just ki I'm just talking about disability. No, I will share my movie experience. I did a paragliding long back. I will talk about that. Then I did marathon this last year. I will talk about that. Then I talk about fitness. I'm into weightlifting also, so I do that. I talk about these things. Disability
Absolutely.
is just one side. They can see that, but I won't mention it.
Right.
Obviously, when I talk, when I walk, people can figure out, I do have a visual challenge, but
Hmm.
that doesn't mean I have to tell them this.
Yeah,
This is my thought
absolutely.
of.
That's
Yeah.
not the only thing you have, right? You have all the other
That's what
things, and
I'm
that is
saying. People think, if I'm sad, people will think, oh, you are visually. That's. I said it never came to my mind only.
absolutely.
I have never been sad for my vision impairment.
Another
Yeah.
important thing that you should clearly mention is that if you've received the President Award, it's not because you're visually impaired. It's because of all the other accomplishments that you have been able to achieve, in spite of this disability,
Yeah.
right? It is not for the
When I
disability that you've got an award.
when I received this award, people ask me for what I tell them. Then they said, "Oh, how come you did so many things?" I said, "It. I never did all the things simultaneously. In my decades of life, I have done in different time frames. I did different things. If you hear that conversation, I mean
Hmm.
not conversation, announcement when they
Hmm.
announced, Divya Sharma and Nangal, they told six things
Hmm.
about me before they handed over the award. So I feel ki, I don't need to tell them ki, for what I have received this or that. They can
Right.
see. If somebody talks to me, I say them, I'm into fitness. I play. I'm a guitarist. I, I s- I do everything I can because I want to
Absolutely.
spread a word. We are normal. It's your spec that you think ki, your lens that you feel that we are disabled. So
Absolutely.
whether it's friendships, whether it's roaming around, whether it's movie time, whether giving advice to others. Many people talk to me, persons without disability who wants advice. People
Hmm.
think that we are always the takers, but we are givers also. I
Yes.
always tell my visually challenged people, ki, if you are feeling low, you just help somebody. You will feel very good. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not always about taking and taking. You have to spread a word. At least something, maybe cooking,
Hmm.
maybe English or Hindi, Marathi, any language. Teach something, tell something. So
Right.
it all matters. When you
Absolutely.
are in a normal society, if you are in a party, you are representing so-called your
Yeah,
communication.
you're trying to live a normal life. That is it. At the end of the day, what is a human being going to do comfortably, right?
Yeah.
If you keep on, reliving in the part of your life that you have something missing continuously, you're going to go mad in your head. So all you're trying to do is you're trying to normalize your life. You're trying to upskill. You're trying to create talents and hobbies, just like anybody else.
Other day, my client, one of my clients, she sent me a work and she said, this is something you have to make some changes in this. So
Hmm.
I hope your screen reader will read this. So I was
Okay.
so happy that now she also knows the jargon.
That's
Screen reader something is there. That I
right.
didn't tell her anything, but that was a big achievement for me in my mind. Now my clients also know that there is something of that sort, which
Right.
they you picked up when they are talking to me, when they are we are interacting through regarding a project. They got to know about all these
And
things.
Divya, they'll even feel more confident to hire another person who is visually impaired because they will know
Exactly.
you've shown them the way that it is possible for you
Yeah.
to get work done, right? In
And
spite of the
even,
challenge.
but it doesn't mean if I need help, I tell them. The other day
Hmm.
there was something which was not accessible. I told them, "You see, this is not accessible, and
Hmm.
I'm giving you 90% work. You have to figure out a way." And she figured
Hmm.
out because she knew, her work is at loss. But that
Right.
you have to learn to take help also. But it doesn't mean you
Absolutely.
won't put an effort only and you always relying on others. You can't be a liability on others. But of course,
Absolutely.
it doesn't mean if I'm on the road, I will tell, okay, I need some help. Can you please help me with this?
Right.
There's no shame in that, because there are normal people who are calling me and asking me, "Ki, Divya, could you please help me with this or that?" So when
Right.
they are asking, it's a tragedy when a normal person, for example, if I ask somebody ki, okay, ye shirt kaisi lag rahi hai, ye kapda kaisa lag raha hai mere pe, they will think ki we are dependent on that.
I
But
know.
अगर एक normal person दूसरे बंदे से पूछता है कि हमारे कपड़े कैसे लगते हैं, वो सोचते हैं कि it's normal. They are
Hmm.
taking it a normal conversation, we are
Right.
just talking. But if a person with disability are, it's like a favor कि मतलब,
These are things, Divya, which we have to change. I think I'm so
yeah,
happy that you are
exactly,
pinpointing these little things, right, where the
yeah,
mindset differences lie. But I think these kind of conversations, exactly this very specific little topics, which if we can convince people to start thinking differently, I think we will
yeah,
start making them think bigger things. It starts small, they say, right? Always. And I'll tell you another
exactly,
thing about people who think they're absolutely normal, right? I'm an architect by profession, and you know what kind of a
yeah,
role it is, right? You have to design a building, you sometimes have to
yeah,
design interiors, and whenever you have to do any task, right, which is a creative task, a single person, though I'm an architect, I alone cannot do the entire project. I am disabled, to
yeah,
in that sense of the word, I feel extremely disabled to do the entire project on my own, because even
yeah,
qualification wise or technically or through my individual capacity, when it comes to doing any work in life where professionally, you
yeah,
need a team to work on things, right? Somebody has a skill set which makes them, let's say, a sanitation expert, for example. I would become overall design manager. Somebody will become an interior designer. Somebody will become a furniture designer or a product designer. And likewise, I keep telling people that whenever you have to work with a person with any form of disability, consider their skill set, right? Don't
yeah,
consider
yeah,
what they don't have, consider what they have, and consider that
exactly,
is that is the part that you're hiring in that person, right?
yeah,
And you are then going to be able to create a sustainable livelihood for that person, which is the second significant thing you'll be doing. Just like how
yeah,
you give an opportunity to somebody who is a consultant of a particular subject, they are consultants of their specific subjects. So do not
yeah,
for a while just forget what is missing in their body or in their
yeah,
if they are neurodivergent in their mind. Forget, start focusing on their abilities. That is the only way you'll be able to work in a team of people who are diverse, right? Whether that
yeah,
person is gender diverse or physically diverse or mentally diverse or absolutely without any challenge, right? You'll be able to create an holistic team.
yeah,
And I think once an employer realizes that that is the beauty of people, that people come in with skill sets and not with their
yeah,
challenges, can any workplace become truly inclusive? Can an educational institution become fully inclusive? Because that is when the mindset will be fully evolved, right? When we stop thinking about isme, is bande mein kya काम नहीं कर रहा है, they have to start thinking about what their strengths are. I think that is a prime time focus that people need to have today, Divya. Bringing me now to the last question, because you know how deep this conversation can be, right? And it's so vast
yeah.
that we'll never be able to finish talking. I think we'll have to keep coming back, and I'll have to keep knocking on your door. So Divya, I feel like talking this with you. Do you want to hop on to our
Be
platform and
more
talk
than
about
happy
this?
to do that.
Yeah, it's always fun, right? What is the harm? What do we have to lose? We are only thinking together in a space like this. So my last question for today is, Divya, why, before we leave, why don't you spell out what are your asks from people who are listening to you? What do you think you would want people to do consciously, you know, uh, from whatever you have learned and experienced in life?
See, I think people have to be little more, I should say, empathetic, and they should, as per their capacity, they don't have to be the prime minister or the CM or the principal or, the head of the company. In their capacity, they should not stay silent when any discrimination is happening towards any person or person with disability. They should speak up, and they should try to dig in and, understand things, because only then the world will become inclusive. Because no matter how much I try, you try, or any other person with disability try, if normal people are not, normal means so called normal people are not shaking hands, it won't work like that. So they have to come forward, and they have to think beyond inspiration or beyond sympathy. because generally they just think about person with disability as an epitome of inspiration, or just like pitiful
Absolutely.
person. So this is not something that we are aiming for. And and I strongly believe कि normal जो लोग अपने आप को normal समझता है, जो कि मैं नहीं समझती, everybody, maybe some people have diabetes, some people have heart issues, all these things are conditions, and I don't feel कि you should categorize it कि you have a disability and all. So I feel
Hmm.
people should come up, and if for example if I am a person with vision impairment और उनको कुछ लगता है कि आई फील कई बार जो आम लोग होते हैं उनको डर लगता है कि हम कैसे अप्रोच करें एक पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी को, उनके लिए
Right.
भी डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है, अग्री मेरे
Hmm.
को है, इसलिए आई फाइंड इट नॉर्मल, बट एक नॉर्मल सो कॉल्ड नॉर्मल पर्सन के लिए इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट। दे डोंट नो, दे फील कि मे बी पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी कहीं ऑफेंड ना हो जाए, या
Right.
फिर कहीं उसको कैसा लगेगा। दे ऑल्सो हैव देयर हेजिटेशन, एंड आई अप्रिशिएट एंड आई रिस्पेक्ट दैट, बट इट
Hmm.
डजंट मीन दे विल स्टे साइलेंट। दे शुड टॉक टू यू, दे शुड कम अप, एंड दे, अगर आपको कोई डाउट है किसी की
Hmm.
डिसेबिलिटी को लेके, गो अहेड एंड टॉक टू देम। 99.9% people with disabilities have no issue, no problem discussing about their disabilities. But I don't know
Absolutely.
even why today normal people आते हैं, they will, when they want to talk about vision impairment, कोई नया person आएगा, धीरे से कान में बोलेगा, अच्छा वो देख नहीं सकते या वो नहीं। आई डोंट नो व्हाई पीपल आर हश हश कर रहे हैं, आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड दिस,
किस
कि
बात
वो
का
काय
डर है?
क्यों
किस बात का
क्यों
डर है?
टैबू कर रहे हैं, यू नो I don't know. Even today, I'm a, I can say I'm independent in so many things, and so many things I'm doing. But even when I'm going to a party, if my mom is there with me, they will come and say, Divya, chai leki ya coffee? And I will say, see, I'm Muslim, but I can hear. So
I
this is like,
swear.
this is something that we
I
have to
swear.
change. बहुत सालों की एक्सपीरियंस के बाद अब मुझे आ गया कि अभी कोई आगे बोलता है तो आई जस्ट टेल देम कि हाँ, आपको जो भी पूछना पूछो, आई आई हैव नो इश्यूज, आई कैन
Right.
गिव यू गारंटी, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है। आई वोंट फील आई वोंट फील बैड दैट यू हैव आस्क्ड मी, क्योंकि बहुत लोग होते हैं उनको डर लगता है कि वो कैसे आपसे अप्रोच करेंगे, कि आप
Right.
कहीं बुरा ना मान जाओ। तो वो चीज हमें
Absolutely.
बोलनी पड़ेगी, एंड हमें भी आगे आना पड़ेगा कि वी स्टार्ट टॉकिंग ओपनली अबाउट एवरीथिंग। पीपल विल आस्क
Absolutely.
मी कि तो आप घूमने जाते हो, और व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट मैरिज, व्हाट डू यू
Hmm.
थिंक अबाउट लव लाइफ, व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट अदर थिंग्स इन द लाइफ, एंटरटेनमेंट, एंजॉयमेंट, सो मेनी अदर थिंग्स। तो लोगों को लगता है कि शायद ये पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज नहीं करते, बट आई थिंक दैट्स अ बिग थिंग
Such
कि
a myth.
उनको
Hmm.
हैव टू स्मेल द कॉफी एंड वेक अप एंड स्मेल द कॉफी,
Absolutely.
because it's high
Absolutely.
time that we also come forward and talk to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Divya. And I think somewhere, if each person who is living with any form of disability becomes a self advocate, right? Start
Yeah,
speaking just like the way that you are. I think then the people around them will realize that there is nothing non-functional about disability, right? Disability,
yeah,
I know, as a word sounds very negative, and that is where probably I would request whoever has been legalizing and formalizing this word to rethink the capacity of this word. I think being differently abled is the right word, if you ask me honestly, because yes, all of us have different abilities, and each one of us could be differently abled. Somebody could be differently abled through vision, through hearing, through movement, etc. And I think that also is a fair ask, that let's all start realizing that disability is just a misnomer. It is not the accurate concept of that person's life. It is just some of the functions that are different than the others, right, at the end of the day, and that is all it is. And that is why they land up upskilling themselves in various other ways. They try to become mentally stronger. They become stronger in various other skills and hobbies, which most of the people who have no disability let go, because they are able to do so many things functionally, right? And it's just the way people are. And from the caregiver's perspective, I think I would want to add that if you are a parent of a child with disability, please don't give
yeah,
up on them, right? Because that is the only value add that this mother can make through the conversations. That start having faith in your own children first. Do not keep disability and on top of the list, that this is what defines that child, but have the faith that this child has capacity to give back more than what they are born with, or they are disabled by. I think that is a huge mindset change that parents of children with disabilities need to have, that these children have or will develop other capacities, right? If there is some capacity which is lacking, do not get demotivated by that. I think that is where inclusion starts for me, honestly speaking, because if your parents are believers, then they can go and actually fight all the battles in the initial years of the life of that child, right? Whether it is with the educational institution, whether it is with the educators, or with the teachers, or with any other system who is the who starts creating the roadblock for the child in the initial years of the life. Because by the time the child grows up, is able to communicate, his
Yeah.
has gone through multiple ups and downs, trying to adjust to their lives around. A lot of valuable time is lost for many children, many children who are coping with disabilities. I think that's my only thing that I wanted to add. And another thing is that we are all humans, right? In the life cycle of every human being, Divya, tell me if you know one person who is going to be fully able from the time the day they are born to the day they are die, to the
Yeah.
day they die, right? Not one individual is born able or dies fully able, right? So
Yeah.
disability, if that is the word one has to use, is a part of all our lives, and hence
Yeah.
we all require access to everything that life has to offer. No, there's not one thing that we can say that we can do access without, right? We all need access to things that are available to us universally. And that is where disability, the topic of disability, starts and ends with me, because as a human being, we are all going to be challenged at some point or the other in our lives. So on that
Yeah.
note, Divya,
Exactly.
I want to thank you for your valuable time, and may you stop inspiring, right? And actually start self advocating for all the rights that I believe are very, very critical for people to wake up and smell the coffee, like you rightly said, and
Yeah.
normalize life for people who are living with challenges. Because inclusion is not, it's not going to happen automatically. It is a very, very conscious act that we have to work on and bring about, right? So thank you so much.
Yeah.
May you remain empowered, and may you go places in life, Divya. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you so much, Manisha, for having me for this interesting and insightful interaction. Thank you.
Thank you.